Hey everybody, I'm Raph, and this is Bimo the kitty cat. As reptile keepers, cats can be obviously adorable and fluffy and cuddly, but they can also be quite dangerous to our animals. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the dangers of keeping a ridiculous predator like this, and also keeping our calm, defensive animals that we love so much. Follow the channel a bit, you might be wondering, Ref, that's not one of the cats that we saw in the reptile room tour. This is our friend's cat. We're cat sitting. He's visiting home in Florida. So shout out Jacob. Bimo's doing great. But like I said, cats obviously are super snuggly and adorable. Our cats aren't great at handling, so it's nice to have Bimo around. She's not loving it either, really. But they can also be some of the most ridiculous predatory creatures that we accept into our homes. Now I have Trips the ball python with me, and there's a specific reason you'll see later on in the video, but as much as Trips does not love handling, way easier to handle than a cat. Cats are these ridiculous predators, and I would like to do a video pretty much all about cats, and I'll do that. But today we're talking more about keeping cats and reptiles. So cats can be considered an invasive species pretty much everywhere in the world, right? They've made it plenty of places and they can survive almost anywhere. Cats kill billions of native species, whether they're feral cats or cats that humans let outside or keep outside. So is it really safe to keep cats where we keep all these beautiful little reptiles that are scared of most things? The answer is maybe. It depends on how you do it. The number one thing I'm going to say about keeping cats and reptiles is keep your reptiles in secure enclosures, right? Just, our turtles have open top. Tortoises are turtles too. It's like how every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. So our turtles have open tops, but as far as Bubbles goes, being an aquatic turtle, I'm not too worried about the cats trying to get in there. And Leroy is pretty good at using his shell to escape danger. But honestly, this video is not as simple as telling you to secure the lids on your reptile enclosures, because Trips has had a secure lid on his enclosure for as long as we've had him. We used to have him in a smaller tub on that shelf behind us where you see those tubs right there. And the lid was secure, the latch top, everything that you're supposed to do, right? Except one thing. Our two cats, they love wires. Cords and string and really anything that shape. And they love to chew on them, pull on them, rip on them. So, in our amateur reptile keeping days, not that long ago really, to be honest, we had left the reptile room door open all night, and our cats are almost entirely nocturnal. I know some cats adapt to a more human-like schedule, but our cats are primarily nocturnal. They'll come out for a couple hours during the day, go back to sleep, and they're really running around going crazy all night. So on this fateful night, there's a heat mat on the bottom of Trips's enclosure, and the cats pulled on it. And the cats pulled the enclosure down, and those little latches on the lid were not enough to keep Trips in. What happened immediately after that is Trips became a cat toy, and we really don't know for how long, but it happened. Now this is a funny little fact though, because this is an African species, the ball python, and domestic cats come mostly from the African wildcat, which is still around today, and so really they likely evolved in the same kind of regions. So events like this, obviously not in an apartment, right, but in the wild, have probably happened for years and years and years. And I believe this firmly because, as you can see, and Trips is not a very big snake, and he was much smaller than he is now. He wasn't even eating for us at the time that this event happened, but he survived it. And all cats are savages, really. I mean, they're obligate carnivores. Movement triggers them. Even, you're petting a cat, you're cuddly, cute little cat, right? And it'll just attack your hand for no reason. It's because senses movement and it's instinctual in their body. Is like, oh, I have to kill it. Like, something's moving, I'm gonna kill it. But Trips survived. And Trips survived in my opinion, for the reason that they call them ball pythons. Now I'm about to stress Trips out a little bit, but he'll be okay. So here we go. This is why they're called ball pythons, right? If I start kind of messing with his head and he doesn't want to deal with me, they do this right here. They transform into a little ball. This, I'm sure, is the only thing that kept Trips alive, because if he was willing to engage with these cats, he would have been sticking his neck out quite literally, and the cats would have capitalized on this, as they're so good at doing. Bimo, are you okay, sweetie? These snakes, maybe because they evolved with cats, they developed this defense mechanism. Now, everybody wants to be scared of snakes, but really they have no way of defending themselves except rolling up into a little ball. And as you can see, he still has some scars. We worked with him hours and hours and hours to try to make him all better. And he's gotten way better. He's been eating since this happened, really. And he seems totally healed, no health problems, really. But I just find that really amazing that it could be because of their interactions with each other that the species, anyway, African wildcats and ball pythons, that Trips was able to survive this ordeal. Speaking of housing reptiles and cats in the same location, this could also go the other way around, especially if you have a smaller kitten and a larger constrictor than a ball python, likely. Like a red-tailed boa or something like that. Anything, I don't know, probably around the 10-foot mark or more. If you don't have that snake in a secure enclosure and it gets out and it's sniffing around somewhere and it sniffs out your cat, full-grown cat might be a little too big of a meal, but they can definitely use their constricting abilities and kind of mess the cat up, if we're being honest. So that's number one on the list, guys. Secure your enclosures. This way you can avoid pretty much, I'd say, about 90% of any bad interactions between your cats and your snakes, reptiles, bearded dragon, chameleon, all that stuff. Another thing that we started doing since this event is all the cords that are on a shelf or something like that, like behind me here, it's all taped down. It's all taped directly to the shelving system, so that even if the cats were yanking on those wires as hard as they could, that tension on the wire doesn't make it to the enclosure to even let it move, right? It stays right where it is. Then worst case scenario, they kind of chew on the wires and stuff and they might get electrocuted. That's why we're training them to kind of stay away from that. There are different things you can do to get your cats to stop chewing on stuff like that. So we've been working on that as well. But this way you don't do what we did, and it's really sad that Trips was a cat toy for a night. Now, another issue is cats love to climb, right? So, they might climb on whatever you got going on. For that, the shelving that we're using behind us here, it has it's steel wire kind of that runs across. So our cats have, I think they tried when we first had it up, when we first got them in here, but then they kind of realized pretty quickly, like, oh, every time I try to step on this, I wipe out, and I'm not going to do that anymore. So we haven't had any problems with that since, really. Another thing is we have this screen cage for our panther chameleon, and I don't know, if you've kept cats, you know that sometimes they'll climb screen doors, they'll jump on screen windows and whatnot. So avoiding this comes down to putting a barrier, really, between any of your reptiles and your cats. So we don't have our reptiles in our bedroom, which is our cat's main stomping ground, I'd say. And this gives us the ability, if we're leaving the house for a few hours or whatever, or every night we do this as well, we can just close the reptile room door. And, Mochi really loves it in here, but, she'll get over it. That way we don't have to worry about anything like that, because we have seen them jump on Melon's enclosure before and kind of just hang on there. Luckily, there's enough live plants in there and stuff where it weighs it down, where they won't be able to pull it down. But, that's possible too, right? So whenever you're not at home, if you can put a physical cat-proof barrier between your cats and your reptiles, it's just a really good idea. So this might not be a huge deal if you only have 1 or 2 pet reptiles, but something that we deal with while that door is closed, right, especially during the day when the heat lamps are on, is it gets pretty warm in here. And we're in an apartment, so we're actually not allowed to open the windows because it is super cold in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so they don't want you to even open the windows. We can get fined for it. So, number one, there's usually someone home. We're pretty good about that. But number two, kind of dial in your temperatures, like learn how hot it gets in that room when the door is closed for XXX number of minutes or hours, and that way you don't run the risk of overheating too. A lot of people think reptiles, they just need it scorching hot all the time and it's great for them. You can kill a reptile a lot quicker overheating it than cooling it down, as long as it's not like instantaneous. Like if I put Trips in the freezer, yeah, he might go kind of quick, but I'm not gonna do that. And I also don't want Trips to be exposed to like 120 degrees for an extended period of time, right? So we kind of have it dialed in like during different times of the day when certain lights can go off. Not messing with the photo period. We usually leave the room light on so it stays day or night, or we leave the curtains open so light comes in. This way our reptiles can still have their photo period but also not overheat. So keep track of your room temperatures. Get a little temp gun, cheap. This one was like $10 or something like that. And if you have another like digital thermometer or kind of climate control center in the room, that'll help make it a lot easier to barricade the reptiles from your murderous cats, but also, not cook your reptiles, really. Another thing is, I get a lot of people say, oh, my cat is super cute and cuddly, and they would never do anything, and they hang out with my lizards and stuff like that. In my opinion, avoid contact, especially unsupervised, right? But avoid contact. You need to be within an arm's reach if your cat is close to your reptile. That is it's standard, right? Like I said, cats will attack your hand, even if they love you. Mammals definitely hold the capacity for love and things like that. Even if your cat loves you to death, it'll jack you every now and again. I mean, if you have a cat, you know that. Like, it's just, you're going to get bit. If you have a cat, you're going to get scratched if you have a cat. And you don't need your reptile to be the one experiencing that. I trust if the cats attack myself, I know I'll be okay. It'll hurt, get a little sting, put some Neosporin on that bad boy. But if Barnaby, let's say, is the one experiencing the cat attack, I don't know how well she'll do. She doesn't have a defense mechanism like Trips, which kept him alive. So, or like I said, my tortoise, he can just shell up. Barnaby would probably try fighting back, and that would definitely lead to the end of Barnaby. Just the other day, I was pulling Barnaby out of her enclosure, and Macho was nearby, and Macho started, it wasn't bad. She didn't get her claws in or anything like that, but she started swatting at Barnaby's tail almost immediately. And that tells me if I left them alone together, it might not go great for Barnaby. And going back to what I said about the a larger snake and the cat, rodents can mess up snakes, especially constrictor snakes, because they're not using any kind of envenomation or anything like that. They are biting and constricting, so staying in very close quarters with this food item or rodent. But a lot of live rodents have caused problems during feeding for snakes like ball pythons. I mean, I'll throw some pictures up here, shield your eyes if you don't want to see it. But cats can get messed up by, not cats, snakes can get messed up by rodents. So I can only imagine, even if, let's just say, right, even if Trips was able to eventually overpower and constrict one of our snakes, our cats, I keep confusing snakes and cats, but we'd probably end up losing both of them, because if rats have killed ball pythons, so if a rat can, a cat can. I don't want to fight rats. I think they're adorable, and they're animals too, and they got cute little human hands. But if 50 rats ran up on me, I'd jack the rats. I'm fairly confident in that. But if 50 cats came up on me and they all wanted to get to me and kill me, I'm probably dying. So yeah, I can only imagine how a little cute little innocent snake like this would feel. So this isn't a step-by-step guide on how to keep your cats and your reptiles safely, but more just things to look out for and things you want to keep in mind to make sure that you don't run into the same problem that we did. Again, I don't mind talking about my mistakes because then hopefully that'll help one person not make that same mistake, right? A lot of people say the best way to learn is by making mistakes, and that's true enough, but if you can learn the same lesson from someone else's mistake, do it that way. Don't make the mistake yourself. So that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. If you're like me, you love cats and you love reptiles. So, just make sure that you're taking the steps you need to take to keep everybody involved safe. That goes for yourself, your reptiles, and your cute little kitty cats. I think that's all we got to say. What do you think, Trips? You want them to subscribe and like the video? Corny snake jokes. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you got going on. Just enjoy it, and we'll see you guys next time.